I'm Charlotte McLeod with the Investing News Network, and here today with me is Brock Salier, partner at Sprott Capital Partners. Thank you for joining me. To start off, we are here at the Sprott Natural Resource Symposium. You just gave a talk on investing in ASX and LSE-listed juniors. Why should investors bother looking into those juniors if they're in North America?
I think the most important reason you need to be aware, at least aware of the ASX and LSE juniors, is a bunch of mining companies doing exactly the same thing as what the Canadians are doing. So you've got to be careful when you're investing in a Canadian stock. Are you getting the best value? If, for example, you've got a whole host of Australian listed companies who are essentially very similar to what you're investing in Canada, but they're trading at half the price, then you should be cautious about your valuation. So even if you're not investing in the ASX and LSE juniors, you should keep a wary eye on the valuations to make sure that what you are investing in locally is appropriately priced. That's probably the main reason. Now, the other reason is you've got a whole bunch of different commodities and a whole bunch of different geographies, which you won't really see on the TSX. So, for example, in London, we're incredibly familiar with Africa. We've been going to Africa for, hundreds of years, probably. We've got a wealth of knowledge about Africa. We're very comfortable. There's a lot of expertise. So if you want to look at the African stocks, then the London listings are a good place for a good knowledge base. And it's the same with commodities. So, for example, the old Tesla revolution is very heavy on the media attention at the moment. And the amazing thing about the ASX in Australia is they have taken to this with much more vigour than anyone on the TSX or in London. The sheer volume of lithium, cobalt and graphite companies is overwhelming. That comes with pros and cons. The best thing there is that you've got a huge knowledge base building up, which is great. And again, in Canada, you have got good graphite companies, good lithium companies, cobalt companies, but you can cast your eye over those Australians to pick up some knowledge about what you're about to invest in locally.
Is there anything major about the ASX and LSE that investors should be aware of if they're more familiar with the US and Canadian markets?
Yeah, I'm probably going to come back to the two themes there. The first one is, as I mentioned there, the lithium theme. So it's great knowledge base that's building up in Australia. But you've got to be careful because the valuations can run ahead of themselves. The Australians are incredibly enthusiastic about their battery space, and as am I. I think it's going to be a great space for the next 20 years to invest in. But there's all sorts of technical hurdles which we don't even know what will be. What are the difficulties when you're putting in the new hard rock lithium mines? What are the complexities of the processing plants for cobalt? How do you qualify for selling your graphite? These are things which there's less knowledge on. I'm sure they're all surmountable. But as we watch the valuations, you should be just aware, be cautious that you're not getting involved in too much hype. And another one about the LSE, again, it comes to the geographic jurisdiction, really. Be aware if you found a company on the LSE that you like, you're probably going to be in a country which you wouldn't be taking a holiday to, whether that be West or Central Africa or somewhere like that.
And so this maybe ties into the previous question, but any misconceptions that you find people have about companies on the ASX and LSE?
Yeah, absolutely. Let me focus on the LSE because a lot of people, I was talking about a great story which is called Mariana, which got taken out by Sandstorm earlier this year. And just talking at the conference sidelines, people are very wary and dubious, even of Turkey, let alone Africa. I go to all these countries and every single one of them, whether it be Turkey or the Congo or anywhere else, people get up in the morning, they go to work, they come home in the afternoon. 99.999% of the time, everything's fine. These geographies, I think, and the whole political risk, I think, is completely overcooked. Nationalisation is almost non-existent. There are bad examples, and Tanzania is going through some struggles right now. But in general, I think people are overly concerned about geographic risk. And on the flip side, I put geographic sovereign risk in the same basket as permitting. Both things can stop your share price from going up. Now, if we're in Utah, Nevada, British Columbia, Yukon, permitting is tough and lengthy, and it doesn't matter how good your deposit is, your shares are going to be impacted by that permitting time frame. So that's another thing that's probably one of the advantages of looking at the ASX and TSX stocks.
Are there any specific stocks that you're watching right now?
Yeah, look, there's two that we like to keep an eye on. The story of the moment in Canada is Windfall Lake and Osisko mining there. There's a wealth of juniors up in the Abitibi, and they're all doing very well, and we like those. But what we've done at Sprott Capital Partners is to take that model of narrow vein high grade and look elsewhere. And one we like is West African Resources. They have an Archean narrow vein gold deposit. They've got a low grade open pit, but underneath that they've had phenomenal drill success, drilling 200, 300, 400, even in excess of 1,000 grams per tonne. Along 3 lodes, probably only 100 metres strike length each, but they've got an existing high-grade resource in excess of 30 grams per tonne. We're hoping that will go up to 400,000 to 500,000 ounces with this year's drill season, and looking forward, hopefully it continues to depth and we could be looking at 1 million ounces. Fingers crossed, we'll wait and see. Another one, which is the story of the moment really, is Novo Resources is a Canadian-listed company with a potentially a new discovery in Australia. Now that's Canadian-listed. We don't know how that story will evolve. They've taken their first trench, and there's a lot of visible gold in an Archean conglomerate, very similar to the Witwatersrand gold deposit. But it's not been assayed, it's not been drilled. We don't know how deep it will go, how long it will go, what the grades are. So you have to have some caution there. Now, they have a JV partner who owns 50% of their license, who trades at a $50 million market cap, called Artemis Resources. So $30 million, I should say, Australian. So that's a nice opportunity to sort of play this new discovery at a lower valuation point, with a caution that we will have to wait and see what the drill results show, of course.
Okay. Last question. For investors who are convinced they want to start looking at ASX and LSE-listed juniors, where should they start? Is there any particular place?
Yeah, great question. The Canadians are spoilt. CDAR is an outstanding service. Everything's fully disclosed. 43101 reports are fantastic. To be completely honest, the LSE is a long way behind. You don't get the disclosure. You don't have to lodge your technical reports. It's a struggle. The only place you can really go is just to look at the company press releases. But you will find less information. The AIM regulators are not as strict, so you will struggle to get the detailed information on the LSE stocks. ASX is much better. They have the JORC code, and the wonderful thing is that whilst they don't publish their full technical studies like they do on CDAR for the Canadians, every single drill result, every resource upgrade, every feasibility study will have what looks like pages and pages of fine print at the back of the press release. But if you just go straight to the ASX website, put the ticker in, every single technical result will have lots of fine print down the bottom. That's where all the details are hidden. It is worth reading, and there's lots of information there. And the ASX website is very good. You go straight there and you can pull up 10, 15 years of press releases under old exchange names, etc. So it's a good source of information.
Okay, perfect. Those are all my questions. Thank you so much for joining me today. Once again, I'm Charlotte McLeod with the Investing News Network, and this is Brock Salier.